and to crown us with joy and favor because we understood what he was about. And it's understanding how my race is unique in reaching only those I have been destined to reach. I loved it that our sister stood up here and said, I love Romania and I love Romanians, because you know what? It was like, yes, she is tuned in to the people group that God has destined her to reach. Now, it might be trafficked women. It might be a people group right here in America. It doesn't have to be some other foreign country. But there is a people that God has designed and destined for you as you run the race marked out for you. And when you reach them, it's going to be a crown on your head of honor and blessing. See, I understand it now for me, because when I was 8, when I was 9, and God called me to Bangladesh, I didn't want to be a missionary. So my wife was telling me, I'm going to be a missionary, and I was saying, I want to be a baseball player. I want to do, I want to go into music. I don't want to be a missionary because my dad had been one. And I ran from God's call. And then step by step, God began to work on me. And he called me to Bible school. I was at a youth camp, and there was these representatives from Bethany Bible College in Santa Cruz. And God said to me in 8th grade, that's where you're going to college. And so I said, okay, I'll go there. But I'll go into music, and I'll serve you, God, the way that I want to. And I remember when all my friends were getting their acceptance letters. It was senior year. It was about January or so. And it was in the spring. And everybody was, Brown, Harvard, Berkeley, Yale, all these places. And then they turn to me and say, what about you? And you see, I wanted to apply to those schools, even though I knew I was going to a small 600-member little Bible college, because I wanted to be able to say, I got accepted, but I didn't go. You know what I mean? Yes, I'm going to Bethany, but I could have gone here, but I didn't. And when I went to try to apply to those colleges, God said, what, is my plan not good enough for you? Not good enough? And he wouldn't let me. And it was hard because I had to say, I'm going to Bethany Bible College. They're like, what? Where's that? They're laughing, thinking that was the weirdest thing. And there's a point when I was running from God, but there was a missionary who spoke. And I could take you to the exact spot in that chapel that I was sitting. And he said, God is speaking to people here to give your life to the Muslim world. To give your life to the Muslim world. And you stand. I didn't look around me. I knew it was me. My heart was beating, pounding, sweating. And when I stood up, it was like inside I said, okay, God, you win, I lose. And I stood there thinking that that's what it was. It was all about, God's will and me, losing my dream and doing the difficult thing. And I stood. But what I realize now is I didn't lose. Let me tell you, I won. I won. God won and I won. It's what you call a win-win. Because there's times when I've been in Bangladesh and there's open sewers and people without eyes and arms and some other body part, just flaunting it in your window every stoplight you come to. People pulling at you, people demanding from you, poverty everywhere. 150 million people, half the population of America, crammed into a country the size of Arkansas. Poverty everywhere you look. Horrible conditions. Never knowing when you're going to have power. Sweating all the time. 105 degrees, 95% humidity. And all that's all around me. And there's times when after at one of our student centers, where I'll have the chance to talk to a Muslim about Christ and feel like I've helped them to go to the next step on their journey. And I'd be driving, and the poverty's still there, and the stink is still there, and everything is still there. And inside I'm going, yes! Yes! I'm like excited. It has nothing to do with the surroundings. Nothing to do with what I have or don't have, or how much money I'm making, or what I'm driving, or what my house looks like. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean about what those guys back in high school thought about what college I went to. Because inside, I realized that I've got a crown. That I'm winning the race. That I'm achieving the prize. That's the prize. It's living. It's living. We don't have to go through failed relationships. Or derailed or dreaded careers. Or prescription drugs, or the self-help section at Barnes & Noble. We don't have to go there to realize that there's one thing worth pursuing in life. That to find out that if you're in a race and you haven't figured out why you're running or what's the goal, you're not going to be happy. You're going to be unfulfilled, unsettled, and insecure. And Paul said, I don't want to run like a man running aimlessly. And these last couple of years, if you've been paying attention, and I know you have. There are so many who saw their prize, what they were running after, devalued, cut in half, overnight, stripped away, taken from them, revealed for what it is as fleeting, temporary, and cheap. And could it be that you came to UC Davis pursuing another dream, but realizing in the course of your time here that you were here to learn how to achieve your prize through a group like Davis Christian Fellowship? Paul's talking about a prize that is so worth it. I'm going to wrap up. That is so worth it that he said, I became everybody's slave to get it. Because he said, I'm a free man. And here he was. He was this Roman citizen who was free when there was so much slavery around him. And he said, I become a slave. In fact, they were Christians that were wealthy, free people that purposely sold everything they had and became slaves. You know why they did that? So they could reach slaves for Christ. They willingly gave up all their riches and became slaves, literally, to reach other slaves for Christ. That was actually what people did back then, some of them. And we as Americans are so free to succeed and to earn and to strive and to compete. And Paul says, this prize is so worth it. The prize of winning people to Jesus Christ is so worth it. You'll give it all up. He loses this, I just got to be me, man. I got to be true to myself. No, he says, I become all things to all men. Man, if I need to be weak, I'll be weak. Have you ever gone forward at an altar to pray for somebody? Maybe the guy at the front, okay, he's talking and he said, now I want all of you horrible, ugly sinners to come forward and receive Christ. Now, and I want you believers to come and to pray for these horrible, destitute sinners that are going to come to the front, you know. And they don't say it quite like that. But, you know, you're a Christian and you're a believer and you don't want anybody to think, well, I'm not one of those. I'm one of the good guys. So you kind of grab the biggest Bible you can and walk down the aisle, you know. So everybody knows you're not one of those. You're one of the prayers, not the prayees. Right? And Paul said, no, man, I'll become weak. I'll let someone think I'm a fool. I'll let someone think whatever they want to. If I get a chance to reach somebody, man, I don't care what I look like. Let someone think because I hang out with prostitutes, I'm a prostitute. Let someone think because I hang out with drug addicts, I'm a drug addict. I don't care about my reputation. I want to win them for Christ. He loses the I gotta be me attitude. To appear weak, to take risks. Before we landed in Bangladesh this last time, there was a terrorist group that had detonated 64 bombs simultaneously all over the country in all 64 districts. We were investigated by secret police. We all almost lost our life in a plane crash. And I want to tell you something. You can lay it all on the line and you'll never regret it if you do it for Christ. If it's the race marked out for you. Paul beat his body, he said. He said, everybody who runs in the games goes into strict training. And here's what a writer said about the games. His name is Epictetus. Epictetus. He said, do you wish to gain the prize at the Olympic Games? Consider the requisite preparations and the consequences. Okay, I think someone's trying to tell me something. Time is running out. Do the other one? All right. Check 1, 2. I mean, drink. You must observe a strict regimen. You must live on food which you dislike. You must abstain from all delicacies. You must exercise yourself at the necessary and prescribed times, both in heat and in cold. You must drink nothing cooling